How are we going to save Eternia from the Horde? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with episodes 4 and 5, the final two episodes for now of Masters of the Universe Revolution. And I say for now because this is all that's released so far. There's going to be a second half of the season released sometime probably within the next few months. But at least for now, I haven't heard anything about when it's coming. So we just have to wait. But we're going to finish this off today doing the last two episodes. And after last time, with, the Horde and Skeletech and everyone taking over, even after Skeletor learned that he's, He-Man's uncle and everything, I'm very curious as to how this is going to go. Because I believe I talked about it, earlier on in the season, first couple reactions. How are they going to resolve this for the first half? If they're going to have a first half resolution, and then the second half's going to be, upping the scale and have its own resolution and all, what are they going to do here? Because they can't defeat the Horde. The best they could maybe hope to do right now is to drive them out. Because the thing is, you can't introduce, villains like the Horde and then take them out in the first half of the season. That would be monumentally bad writing. And they've taken over already within the third episode. It's happening rather quickly. And that's my biggest concern. A lot of my fears for this season have been quelled because of how it's been written and how it's been handled, how different plot points have come together and become, part of the same plot point. But there's certain things that are still concerning me. And this is probably the biggest one. The fact that Adam doesn't have his sword right now. And that's going to definitely cause problems. Even though he is in He-Man form, he doesn't have the full scale of the power in his hands without the sword. And you have everything going on with just Teela and the snake magic and everything. She's training in that, but she's not even been there to protect it. This might have gone very different if she had been there. And then Andra was, bamboozled. Because everyone, let's be honest, was bamboozled. And now, shit's just gone completely, crazy. What are they supposed to do now? All of the citizens have been taken over by Motherboard's tech. Skeletor has literally been handed the throne. It's what now? There's just so many questions. And we have 2 episodes to figure this out, but again, the most they could do is drive the Horde back. Because defeating them this early would be, honestly, a massive waste. And I just don't even see how they could do that at this point. But I guess we'll see. And I'll talk in the afterthoughts about where we're going to go from here in terms of what's replacing this and all. But yeah. I do also just want to say that we have a bunch of shows every week that you can check out on the channel. We're reacting to 2 shows every day, Monday through Friday. We also react to YouTube reactions on Monday, and we have some gaming content currently on Wednesdays. We are currently streaming through Momodora Moonlit Farewell, but we will be soon moving into some PS5 stuff as well. We also post movies every Saturday and Sunday. And so, yeah, there's a lot of reactions to look forward to. There's other content as well. Occasionally, you'll see like an AMV pop up or a countdown list. There's always something for everyone. And the schedule is consistently rearranging and changing so that we make sure that everyone always has something to go with and it never grows stale. But that being said, we're just going to get this started. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything for that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, yeah, so the person at the end wasn't Shadow Weaver, it was Despera, which that's probably how it's pronounced, not Despara, Despera. You get the joke. It's, you know, based off an 80s series. I didn't even think about Horde Prime. Like, that was a thing in the She-Ra series, but I just did not even consider that would be a thing here. It really didn't cross my mind. And I think the thing is, because I'm not as super familiar with the original source material and stuff, like, I mentioned this before, I've seen, like, some of the original He-Man, but I was never, like, super into it. And I never really watched, like, a lot of the other expanded stuff for the franchise. Outside of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power that came out in 2017, I think is when it started. Outside of that, it's like I never really watched a lot of the other stuff related to this franchise outside of, like, a couple small things here and there. The point is that I don't know, like, a lot of the lore, so I don't know, like, who Despera is. That's why my first thought was Shadow Weaver. Because because it's like, oh, we're getting Horde Prime, so I'm thinking towards the She-Ra series. So it's like, is this supposed to be Shadow Weaver? But no, it's just another character. Okay. So I don't know who the character is, so I don't know what we're getting into here. But I do know Horde Prime. Because in the She-Ra series, Horde Prime is the originator. Hordak is basically a clone of Horde Prime. So I hope, and I assume, and I hope that Horde Prime will also be voiced by Keith David. It just makes sense for them to have the same voice. But like I said in the reaction, this resolves my biggest issue with these last couple episodes. Because as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, like, this is so fucking rushed. This is episode 5 out of 10 for the entire season. Why is this the finale? Like, this is not being painted as a mid-season finale. This is being portrayed as a finale. The scale of this battle, Hordak being killed, which we know is not the case now, but still, the final battle against Skeletor with him actually being, you know, turned back into Keldor. Like, Adam, like, completely dismantling the monarchy. It's just, this is, like, big finale shit. Even Tila restoring Praetornia, which, mind you, that I expected by the end of this half of the season. But still, everything came together. These 5 episodes were basically a complete season in terms of how it's presented. And my problem with that is it felt excessively rushed. Because the fact is, this season is not over. It's a 10-episode season. We're only halfway through. This was only the finale of the first half. By that knowledge, this seems excessively rushed. But finding out that Hordak is technically still alive, that Despera, whoever this is keeping him alive, and that Horde Prime is the true villain behind it all, which, again, as a She-Ra fan, as a fan of the 2017 reboot of She-Ra, it's like, yeah, that tracks. Finding all of this out resolves that issue, because that was the point. It's meant to feel like this was resolved too easily. It's meant to feel like this was like this big grandiose finale, because the next half is going to basically go off the rails. Shit's about to get real in a way that is more than likely going to make this half look like nothing. And that's exciting. I still say, though, that this half was rushed. I still believe that it was. I feel like it would have been better if there was at least one more episode prior to the finale. Like, make it like 6 for the first half, and then the second half maybe also 6, have it upgrade to 12 instead of 10. But the problem is, I don't really think that's on the creators. Usually, these days, when a show gets like a 10-episode order, or 6 episodes, or 8 episodes, or so on and so forth, it's because of the networks. That's what they're given. And it's like, oh, we're given a 10-episode order, we have to make that work for the story we want to tell. A big example of this happening recently is Has-Been Hotel. Has-Been Hotel was given 8 episodes because Amazon wanted to make sure it was going to work. This, unfortunately, meant that season 1, for all that they wanted to do in it, was rushed. They had to get through it a lot quicker than they wanted to, and Vivzie even admitted this. But they've also said that season 2 should be better, now that they've got the season 1 stuff out of the way. And this was the same case with the live-action One Piece. Certain things were rushed because of the number of episodes they were given. That's not their fault. That's on the studios. The studios don't want to put forth as much money and effort and time into these shows if they don't know if they're going to work or not. They're going to give them smaller orders because that's what's safe. This was actually really well expressed with the Castlevania series. The Castlevania series, the first season was, what, 4 episodes? But because of how well it was received, Netflix gave the second season twice as many episodes. And I think it actually increased again after that. But the point is, they were unsure if it was going to work. They gave a very small episode order, and the creators and showrunners and everyone of the Castlevania series, all the crew who worked on it, made it work to such a degree that people wanted to see more, that it got people excited for more of what they could do with an anime style Castlevania series. And they ran for, like, what, 4 or 5 seasons? And now there's a second series, a sequel series, Castlevania Nocturne, that was also really well received. It's like, yeah, that's going to happen. when a series is really well received, it's going to get more from these streaming services. But they're going to be too afraid to take the chance at the beginning. And when we get the second season of the One Piece live action, we might have more episodes this time. It's always possible. When we get when we get more of all of this stuff, Has Been Hotel, we might get more episodes, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's not guaranteed we will, but it's possible. And more money can definitely be put into it, especially after how popular it proved to be. But it's like, it's not the fault of the creators, and I just want to make it clear that we should not blame Kevin Smith or any of the showrunners, anyone else working on this series for this. It is rushed. It absolutely is. But it's not their fault. They had probably this big story they wanted to tell for season 2 that probably needed at least a couple more episodes. And unfortunately, they were only given so many. And it's sucks because this is season 2. Season 1 was already popular. So it sucks that they've only given this small amount of episodes and rushed this season as well. Now, while that issue was mostly resolved, thanks to the reveals at the end and all, there was another issue I had with these last couple episodes. They ramped up the corniness so drastically that it felt unnatural. And I want to make it clear, I have no problem with a little bit of corniness in this. It, like I said in the reaction, it's based off of an 80s cartoon, 80s toy line. It's gonna be fucking corny at times. The first season was as well. And the first 3 episodes of this season were. But to a degree to where it felt natural. Where it didn't, like, overstay its welcome. None of it was, like, too far. And I think that was the big saving grace of it. Because we're at a point in time where we don't really want shows, animated series, to be corny like that. Like, as a whole. That's not the appeal of shows like it was back in the 80s. In the 80s, yeah, people loved that shit. It was funny, it was ridiculous, it was absolutely bonkers, and people loved that. But we're in 2024. And there's a point where it goes too far, and a point where it's just like, no, we really don't need to be doing that. Again, having a little bit of corniness is fine. Because we know where this series came from, and that's fine to include some of that as a callback to the origins of this franchise. But when you just make it so drastically, ridiculously corny like they did in these final 2 episodes, it feels out of nowhere. It feels unnatural. It doesn't mesh with the rest of the series. And this show that is mostly serious, suddenly having an influx of puns and references and jokes and ridiculous one-liners, like out of nowhere like this, to this degree, it feels so out of place. It feels so cheesy in a bad way. And that's my problem. It felt like a massive tone shift that did not work for this series. And don't get me wrong, there was still some pretty intense, serious stuff in this finale. But when they're cracking jokes and, like, again, saying these ridiculous one-liners the entire time, it kind of takes a little bit away from that. In my eyes, at least. On top of that, why did Grenomir? I think his name is. Why the fuck was he there? We had, like, no real build-up to him coming in to save them at all. It's like, okay, we saw him before, and I think this kind of goes with the fact that it is rushed, but we saw him before, he was kind of down on his luck, he came around and helped Tila. We don't even have a reason to believe he would know this was all going on. We definitely don't have a reason to believe he would, out of nowhere, come to help. It feels so, like, random. Like, just to be like, oh, remember this character? Yeah, we're bringing him back. We don't really have a reason why, but we're bringing him back. It's like, sure, alright, why not? Like, bring back the spirits of the other heroes and everything after Praeternia was restored and everything. Bring back the king. That all works. All of that makes sense. But Granomir just, I didn't feel like belonged there. he just kind of came out of nowhere. It's just like, oh, okay. I like the idea of mixing magic and tech. I think that's a great idea, and I like how both the villains and the heroes came to this conclusion. That the combination, that embracing both is, you know, proper progress, and that you shouldn't necessarily, like, prioritize one or the other. So that was a good touch in this. But I am confused about one thing that they didn't really... I thought they were at first, but they didn't really resolve as much as I wanted them to. There was, early in the season, like when King Randor died and everything, there's the entire thing brought up of, oh, Adam has to choose between being the king and being He-Man. And at the end here, we kind of get him making the choice by, you know, dissolving the monarchy. But it wasn't properly addressed in the way I thought it was going to be. Because here he's saying, like, oh, we have to embrace both sides of this, but, you know, at this point, what good has the monarchy really brought us lately and everything? And it's just like, okay, but are you going to say anything about the fact that you can be both? And he kind of didn't. It's just like, he could have chosen both. And again, he kind of made the decision by dissolving the monarchy. He chose He-Man over that. But the fact is, like, they never really resolved that in a satisfying way. Because that was one of my bigger issues earlier on, if you remember. The fact that Randor had told him basically that he had to choose between one or the other. It's like, no, he fucking didn't. Both parts were, like, a part of him. Actively. And both parts need to be embraced. And that's never given a proper resolution. He never does embrace that. He never does realize that the idea of choosing one over the other is wrong. And I'm not saying that it makes dissolving the monarchy wrong. In the situation with the circumstances and everything that Adam even mentioned, I have no problem with him dissolving the monarchy to create a democracy, basically, a presidency. And that's fine, but that's not really making a choice, per se. That's basically refusing to make a choice and just eliminating one of the choices from, like, the options. And in the end, again, making a choice is the bad move anyways. Like, you shouldn't have to make a choice between that. You shouldn't have to choose between two sides of you that are equally as valid. So it's just, I really don't feel like there was any satisfying resolution to that. Though, like I said, I'm fine with the democracy thing now, and I like that Andra is going to be running. That's a cool idea. I was kind of thinking that like Tila or Adam would run, but I kind of like the fact that they're not. That like with dissolving the monarchy, especially Adam is like not even gonna attempt to run for the presidency. That he's just going to let that be and let the people have their champion, you could say now. That his time is just completely over. So yeah, and I like also that Andra is running just because I think she could handle that pretty well. And Andra, let's be honest, really needs a good focus again. She was really kind of thrown to the wayside in this first half of the season. And it's really disappointing. I talked about it during the reaction, but you know, Adam and Tila getting together was like obviously gonna happen. It's disappointing though, nonetheless. Even though it was like, you know, obviously in the works, it's just such a boring decision. It's like, oh, we're gonna make the main male and main female lead get together. What a revolution. Pun intended. What a revelatory decision there. Not like that happened in every show like forever. It's so boring. And like I'm not even like talking about the entire heteronormative aspects of it right now. Like I'm not one of those I'm not one of those people who are just going to bitch about it just because it was chosen over the gay option. Like I don't think every series needs to have a gay couple. And I don't think that like it just depends on chemistry and how well it would work with the series and all. The problem is Tila and Andra had active chemistry, like really strong romantic chemistry in season 1. She and Adam didn't. Tila and Adam felt like best friends, but never like a couple. And I still stand by that. This feels forced. It's like, I would not say it's as bad as like Star and Marco from Star versus the Forces of Evil. I don't think anything has been as bad as that, if I'm being honest. But it's really forced nonetheless. Because it's like, these two just don't have romantic chemistry together. I don't believe them as a couple. And again, it feels like it was done just to, you know, keep the status quo rather than anything. I think this is why I liked one of the reasons why I like She-Ra and the Princess of Power so much, because it went against the status quo on so many things. It changed things up so heavily and, you know, altered things to fit more with a modern style. It didn't go with the obvious options almost ever. And that's not even just in romantic sense. That's in pretty much anything. It never, like, went with what would have been the easy way out. And so I really think that this series is just, like, choosing the safest option here. And it just feels forced and unnatural because of it. But like overall, these 2 episodes were still good. But yeah, it was still rushed, even though, like, again, some of that was resolved a bit with the revelations at the end. And it could have been handled better. But again, a lot of that comes down to the amount of episodes they were given by Netflix. That's not really their fault. So I'm not going to really entirely blame them for this. They probably did the best that they could with what they were given. But I think my last thing I want to touch on is Skeletor defeating Hordak felt wrong. Even with the knowledge of him, like, you know, combining magic with tech, which is something that Hordak wouldn't do, I don't feel like he would still be stronger than Hordak at that point. Because his, like, tech and might side was not on the level of Hordak's. Adding the magic, I don't think would make him that much stronger than Hordak. If even stronger, I think would probably put him on the same level as Hordak. So I feel like him defeating Hordak was also a little forced just to have Skeletor be the final villain of this half of the season. But again, having the end parts with setting up for the second half of the season, I think it's okay. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll work, I guess is the best way to put it. If it wasn't for that setup, though, it wouldn't work. But we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I don't know when the second half of the season is going to be coming out. Are they still... I assume it's still going to be called Revolution. I don't see why it would change the name for the second half of the season. But also, would that title still work at this point? I don't know. Oh, also, I almost forgot. There was one other thing I almost completely forgot about. Motherboard was taken out way too fucking quickly and easily. Like, that felt like a complete wasted opportunity. Motherboard had, like, no real presence because of how easily she was taken out. Like, complete waste of a character. And again, that definitely goes into how it was, the season was, or the half of the season was rushed. That definitely goes into the rushing issue. But just completely wasted potential. So yeah, I almost forgot to mention that. Just wanted to bring that up. But that goes into what is going to replace this in this slot going forward. So this actually worked out mostly time-wise. It would have been better if I hadn't had the spring break, but I did need to take that for the reasons I've mentioned before. But if I hadn't had the spring break, it would have worked out even more perfectly in terms of timing. But 1 week off isn't going to kill anything. So the series that is going to replace Masters of the Universe Revolution going forward in this slot on Fridays is going to be the Fallout series. This is one that I've been looking forward to. I'll talk more about that in the first episode reaction of that. But it's a series that I'm really excited for, and it's one that I definitely don't want to wait on. So it worked out timing wise that this is going to be able to be gotten to so quickly. Like I said, it would have worked out even more perfectly if I hadn't taken the week off last week, but still, it still works. Very excited for that. Apparently, it's getting really strong reviews. I haven't heard any spoilers, and I'm going to be avoiding those like crazy, so no worries there. But yeah, so Fallout is going to be replacing this. Unfortunately, I don't have that on this image yet, but it will be put on there over the course of this weekend. Because we have shows every day of the week, Monday through Friday, 2 shows per day. And on Mondays, we also do YouTube reactions. On Wednesdays, we do some gaming content currently. And we have been going through Momodora Moonlit Farewell on stream, though that will be ending soon. And we are also going to be starting up some PS4 stuff because of that. Every Saturday and Sunday, I also put up movie reactions, so look forward to those. And occasionally, there's just some other stuff that appears on the channel, such as AMVs and countdown lists and so on and so forth. But, all of that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on these last 2 episodes of this half of the season in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.